You feel the world in real time. That's the basic assumption we all live by. You see a cup fall, and you reach for it. You hear a sound, and you turn your head. It feels instant. It feels like you're experiencing the universe as it happens, a direct live feed from your eyes and ears to your consciousness. But this feeling, as solid as it seems, is an illusion, a beautiful, functional, and deeply convincing illusion. The short answer to the question is no. Your brain does not perceive reality in real time. In fact, you're always living a little bit in the past. It's not a huge delay. You're not watching a movie that was filmed yesterday, but it's a delay nonetheless, and understanding it changes everything about how you think about your own experience. It's a delay born from pure physics and biology. Nothing can be instant. Information needs time to travel. Let's start with light. For you to see something, light has to bounce off that object, travel through the air, enter your pupil, and hit the retina at the back of your eye. The retina is like the sensor in a digital camera. It's covered in millions of photoreceptor cells, rods, and cones that convert that light into electrical signals. This process isn't instant. It takes a few milliseconds, but that's just the very first step. Now, you have a pattern of electrical signals at the back of your eye. That's not a picture of a coffee cup. It's just raw data. That data has to travel down your optic nerve to your brain. The optic nerve is a thick cable of about 1 million nerve fibers, and it carries this information to a relay station deep in your brain called the thalamus. From there, it's sent to the back of your head to a region called the visual cortex. This is where the real work begins. The visual cortex has to take this jumbled mess of electrical signals and make sense of it. It has to figure out shapes, edges, colors, and motion. It has to compare this new information to everything you've ever seen before to recognize that this particular pattern of signals means coffee cup and another pattern means table. This whole process, from light hitting your eye to you having a conscious perception of I see a coffee cup, takes time. Scientists have measured it. It's somewhere around 80 to 100 milliseconds, a tenth of a second. A tenth of a second might not sound like much, but in the world of biology and survival, it's a lifetime. A fly can change direction in less time than that. A baseball player needs to decide whether to swing at a fastball that's only traveling for about 400 milliseconds total. If the batter was living 100 milliseconds in the past, they'd be swinging at empty air every time. So the first piece of the puzzle is this simple, unavoidable processing delay. Your brain is not a window. It's a computer processor, and like any processor, it has latency. It takes time to crunch the numbers. And this isn't just for vision. It's for every sense. Sound is a different story. Sound travels through the air much slower than light, but your brain processes it much faster. The journey from your eardrum, through the tiny bones of your inner ear, to the cochlea, and then up the auditory nerve, to the auditory cortex is a quicker trip. Your brain can process a sound in just a few dozen milliseconds. Touch is different again. If someone touches your toe, that signal has to travel all the way up your leg and spinal cord to your brain. If they touch your nose, it's a much shorter trip. The processing time for touch depends on where you're being touched. Now the brain has a real problem. It's getting information from different senses, all arriving at different times. The light from a lightning strike reaches your eyes almost instantly, but the sound of the thunder, traveling at a much slower speed, arrives seconds later. You know this intellectually. You can count the seconds to see how far away the storm is. But what about something happening right in front of you? Imagine you're watching someone clap their hand. You see the hands meet and you hear the smack. In your experience, those two things happen exactly the same time. They are a single, unified event, the clap. But in reality, the light from the clap reaches your eyes before the sound reaches your ears. And your brain processes that sound faster than it processes the light. The raw data is a complete mess. The visual information arrives first, but takes longer to process. The auditory information arrives later, but is processed more quickly. It's all out of sync. If your brain just presented this raw data to you, the world would be a confusing, disjointed place. You'd see the hands touch, and then a moment later you'd hear the sound. Nothing would ever feel unified. So what does the brain do? It waits. It collects all the sensory information within a certain time window, roughly a tenth of a second, and holds on to it. It doesn't commit to a version of reality until all the relevant data is in. Once it has the sight of the clap and the sound of the clap, it bundles them together. It essentially says these two things probably belong to the same event. Then it creates a single unified perception and presents it to your conscious mind. And here's the most incredible part. It postdates the event. It doesn't tell you, I just finished figuring out that clap that happened a tenth of a second ago. It tells you, a clap is happening right now. Your perception of now is not a single point in time. It's a smeared out window of time that your brain constantly stitches together from a stream of delayed and out of sync information. The feeling of instant, real time experience is a trick. It's a clever piece of editing to make the final movie of reality feel smooth and coherent. Your brain is a film editor, not a live camera operator. It takes all the footage from the different cameras, eyes, ears, skin, and syncs them up in post production before releasing the final cut to you, the audience. And it does this so seamlessly that you never even notice the editing. This realization is profound. It means that the now you are experiencing has already happened. You are always living on a slight time delay, perpetually catching up to a world that has already moved on. This might seem like a disadvantage, a flaw in the system, but the brain has an even more amazing trick up its sleeve to compensate for this delay. It predicts the future. Since your brain knows it's working with old information, it can't afford to be reactive. If it waited to receive all the data about a thrown baseball before telling your muscles to swing, the ball would be in the catcher's mitt. To interact with the world effectively, the brain has to make a guess about what's going to happen next. It has to project reality forward in time to compensate for its own processing lag. Your brain is a prediction machine. It spends almost all its energy trying to guess what will happen in the next fraction of a second. It does this by building a model of the world inside your head. This model is based on everything you've ever learned, every experience you've ever had. It knows that things that go up must come down. It knows that balls fly in predictable arcs. It knows that faces usually have two eyes and a mouth. When you see a ball flying through the air, your visual system isn't just passively tracking its current position. It's actively running a simulation. Based on the ball's initial speed and trajectory, your brain calculates where it will be in a few hundred milliseconds. And it's this prediction that you actually perceive. You don't see the ball where it was a tenth of a second ago. You see the ball where your brain expects it to be now. This is why a skilled athlete can hit a 95-mile-per-hour fastball. They aren't reacting to the ball's position, they are acting on a prediction of its future position. What you think of as perception is actually a constant dialogue between the brain's predictions and the sensory information coming in. The brain sends its best guess downward to the sensory cortices. The sensory information coming upward from the eyes and ears is then treated as feedback. Its main job is to check the prediction. The brain is constantly asking, was I right? If the sensory data matches the prediction, everything is fine. The brain's model of the world is confirmed and you don't need to pay much attention. This is why you can drive a familiar route to work on autopilot. Your brain knows what to expect, and as long as the world conforms to that expectation, you barely have to think about it. Your perception is mostly just your brain's prediction, with the senses just giving it a quick check. But when the sensory data doesn't match the prediction, that's when things get interesting. This is called prediction error. A deer runs out in front of your car. The sound of a footstep behind you in a dark alley. The taste of salt in your coffee. These are all prediction errors. The incoming data violently disagrees with the brain's model. When this happens, an alarm goes off. Your attention is immediately grabbed. The brain scrambles to update its model. It has to figure out what went wrong and create a new prediction that fits the new reality. This is why the unexpected feels so vivid. A surprise isn't just a new piece of information. It's the signal that your internal model of reality was wrong and needs to be fixed right now. This is a far more efficient way to operate than trying to process every single bit of sensory data from scratch all the time. The brain just assumes its model is correct and mostly focuses on the errors. What you perceive as the world is not the world itself. It's your brain's best hypothesis about the world, constantly being updated by a stream of error signals. This predictive nature explains many strange quirks of our perception. Have you ever thought you heard your phone vibrate in your pocket when it didn't? That's your brain predicting a sensation based on expectation. Have you ever misheard a song lyric, only to be unable to hear it the correct way once you know the real words? That's your brain's initial incorrect prediction being replaced by a new, stronger one. Your perception literally changes. The brain's role as a storyteller and editor doesn't stop with timing and prediction. It also has to deal with the fact that the sensory information it receives is often terrible. It's full of gaps, noise, and ambiguity. Your eyes are not perfect cameras, they have a massive blind spot. Right where the optic nerve connects to the back of the retina, there are no photoreceptor cells. It's a hole in your vision, in each eye. This blind spot is not small. If you hold your thumb out at arm's length, it could easily cover something 17 times the size of the full moon in the sky, and you wouldn't see it if it fell in that spot. So why don't you walk around with two gaping black holes in your vision? Because your brain fills them in. It takes information from the area surrounding the blind spot and makes a reasonable guess about what should be there. If you're looking at a patterned wallpaper, your brain just continues the pattern. If you're looking at a blue sky, it fills the hole with blue. It literally invents a piece of your visual reality, and it does it so seamlessly that you have no idea it's even happening. You can find your blind spot easily. Close your left eye and look at a fixed point. Hold your right thumb up at arm's length out to the right. As you slowly move it inward, there will be a point where the top of your thumb disappears, even though you can see your hand on the wall on either side of it. That's your brain caught in the act of papering over reality. The filling in doesn't stop there. Your eyes are not like video cameras, which record a smooth, continuous stream. Your eyes can only see in high resolution in a very small central area called the fovea. The rest of your vision is surprisingly blurry and lacks color detail. To build a rich, detailed picture of the world, your eyes have to constantly dart around. These movements are called saccades. They are incredibly fast, and you make about 3 of them every second. During a saccade, your eyeball is moving so quickly that the image on your retina is just a useless, blurry smear. To prevent you from experiencing the world as a shaky, nauseating mess, your brain does something remarkable. It basically shuts off your visual processing during the saccade. It's called saccadic suppression. You are effectively blind for a large chunk of your waking life, but you never notice it because your brain takes a clear snapshot from before the saccade and a clear snapshot from after the saccade and stitches them together. It edits out the blurry parts and presents you with the illusion of a stable, high-definition world. Again, your brain is not showing you what's really there. It's constructing a much cleaner, more useful version of it. It's a masterful fabrication, a user-friendly interface for a messy and complicated reality. This construction isn't limited to one sense. The brain is constantly blending information from different senses to create its best guess. A famous example of this is the McGurk effect. In a video, you see a person making the mouth movements for the sound ga, but the audio that's playing is the sound ba. What do most people hear? They hear da. Their brain takes the conflicting information from the eyes and the ears and splits the difference. It creates a third, entirely new perception that is a compromise between the two. What you see can literally change what you hear. This proves that your perception is not a direct line from your ears to your brain. It's a committee meeting where different senses vote, and a final decision is constructed based on all the available evidence. Your personal state also has a huge impact on what you perceive. Perception isn't a passive, objective process. It's deeply intertwined with your attention, your emotions, and your goals. You are not a neutral observer of the world. You are an active participant, and what you need and feel shapes the reality you build. Think about attention. You are constantly bombarded with an overwhelming amount of sensory information. The feeling of your clothes on your skin, the low hum of a refrigerator, the faint smell of coffee, the sight of the dust motes in the air. You can't possibly process all of it. Attention is the brain's filtering mechanism. It's a spotlight that illuminates a tiny fraction of the available information and lets the rest fall into darkness. The classic experiment on this is the invisible gorilla. Participants are asked to watch a video of people passing basketballs and count the number of passes made by the team in white shirts. It's a task that requires focus. In the middle of the video, a person in a full gorilla costume walks into the center of the screen, thumps their chest, and walks off. When asked afterward if they saw anything unusual, about half the people say no. They did not see the gorilla. Their eyes physically looked at it. The light from the gorilla entered their pupils and hit their retinas. But because their attention was focused elsewhere, their brains never processed it into a conscious perception. For all intents and purposes, the gorilla was not part of their reality. This is called inattentional blindness, and it's a dramatic demonstration that what you perceive is what you pay attention to. Your reality is not what's out there. It's what your brain decides is important enough to render for you. And what your brain considers important is heavily influenced by your emotions. Fear changes how you perceive the world. If you're walking down a dark street at night, you're primed to see threats. A stick on the ground might look like a snake. The rustle of leaves might sound like footsteps. Your brain's predictive model is biased towards survival. It's better to have a false positive thinking a stick is a snake than a false negative thinking a snake is a stick. Your emotional state literally tunes your perceptual system, changing the very fabric of the reality you experience. The same is true for other emotions and desires. When you're hungry, you suddenly notice food everywhere. The smell of a bakery seems stronger. Advertisements for pizza jump out at you. The raw sensory data of the world hasn't changed, but your brain is highlighting certain parts of it based on your internal state. Your reality is not objective. It's a personalized construction tailored to your immediate needs and feelings. My reality is different from your reality, even if we're standing in the same room, because our brains are filtering and interpreting the world through our unique histories, biases, and emotional states. This subjective construction of reality even extends to the most fundamental aspect of our experience, the passage of time. We've already seen how the brain plays tricks with timing to sync up the senses. But it goes deeper than that. The brain's perception of the duration of time itself is flexible. You've probably experienced this. Time seems to fly when you're having fun and drag on when you're bored. A terrifying event, like a car crash, can feel like it happened in slow motion. This isn't just a figure of speech. It's a genuine perceptual distortion. In a high-stakes, novel situation, your brain goes into overdrive. An area called the amygdala, which is involved in emotion and fear, kicks in and tells the rest of the brain to start recording everything in high detail. You lay down much richer, denser memories than you would for a mundane event. Later, when your brain plays back that memory, there's so much more information packed into that short period. Because there's more story to tell, it feels like it must have taken longer to happen. The slow motion effect is a trick of memory. It's your brain's retrospective assessment of how much data it packed into a moment. This shows that even our sense of time's flow is not a direct reading of a universal clock. It's a construction influenced by how much attention we're paying and how emotionally charged the situation is. Your brain is not just the editor of your reality, it's also the timekeeper, and it's constantly adjusting the clock. So, where does this leave us? We started with a simple question. Do you perceive reality in real time? The answer is a clear and resounding no. What you experience as a live feed of the world is actually a delayed, heavily edited, and highly personalized construction. It's a story your brain tells itself about what's happening. Your brain is always living in the recent past, dealing with the lag from its own processing. To compensate, it constantly predicts the immediate future, and what you perceive is largely that prediction. It takes messy, incomplete, and out-of-sync data from your senses and cleverly fills in the gaps, edits out the junk, and syncs everything up to create a seamless, coherent narrative. It filters this narrative through the lens of your attention, emotions, and goals, creating a reality that is uniquely yours. It even stretches and compresses its own sense of time to fit the emotional weight of a moment. This might sound unsettling at first. It can feel like you're disconnected from true reality, living inside a simulation of your own brain's making. But this isn't a flaw, it's a feature. It's the result of millions of years of evolution finding the most efficient and effective way to navigate a complex and dangerous world with limited processing power. Trying to process every single photon and sound wave in real time would be impossibly slow and computationally expensive. The brain's strategy of prediction and error correction is a brilliant shortcut. It allows you to operate on a good enough version of reality that is stable, useful, and actionable. Your brain isn't interested in giving you the truth in all its messy, delayed, and chaotic glory. It's interested in giving you a version of the truth that will help you survive, find food, and connect with others. The illusion of real-time perception is not a bug. It's the greatest trick the brain has ever pulled. It creates a stable world where you can catch a ball, understand a conversation, and appreciate a sunset. It builds a user interface for reality that is so intuitive and seamless that you mistake it for reality itself. You're not a passive observer watching the world go by, you are an active creator of your own experience. Every sight, every sound, every moment you perceive as now is a masterpiece of biological engineering, a story whispered to you by your own mind, arriving just a fraction of a second after it has already happened.